The problem statement is like uh, there is a given list of integers. We have to find the two elements whose sum is closest to 0. The list can contain both positive and negative integers. Our output should match, like the function should return the two elements whose sum is closest to 0, and if there is multiple pair with the same distance to 0, it should return any of one of them. If the list is empty, the function should return none. For example, given the list 4, minus 4, 7, 6, 2, minus 5, the function should return the pair of minus 5 and 6 as the sum of these two elements is very close to 0. We have included two methodology in our assignment which shows that one of them is brute force approach and another is optimized approach. The brute force approach is involves iterating through all the possible pair of elements and computing their sums. The method has a time complexity order of n square and it's inefficient for larger list. Therefore, for larger list, alternative approaches such as sorting the list or using hash table can be employed to achieve the lower time complexity. In further slides, we have detailed explanation for the code for your reference. Moving forward to the second approach, sorry, here is the brute force approach. We have written down the code and we are further breaking down it for your reference. Let's break it down the code. Our first line of code is defines that the function which can take an array as an input and the other next two lines. This line initializes the two variable mean difference to infinity and the pair to none. Mean difference will keep track of the minimum difference between n two types of pair of element in the in the array. The pair will store the pair of elements whose sum is very close to 0. In this for loop, we have taken two for loop and an if test statement. The lines of implement the brute force approach. The outer loop iterates through each element in the array, and the inner loop iterates through all the elements after the current element. This ensures that each pair of the elements is considered only once. The sum of the current pair is calculated and its absolute value is taken to ensure that the distance from 0 is always be positive. If the distance is smaller than the current minimum difference, the minimum difference is updated and the current pair is stored in the pair. Let's break down the code, that is our third slide. In here we have written down the final statement, the return pair statement. This line of code is returning the closest pair in the function. Moving forward with the optimized approach, that is our second approach. This involves storing the array first and then finding the pair by iterating through the stored array from both ends, moving inward towards each other. This method has a time complexity of order of n log n, where n is the length of the list. Here is the optimized approach code for your reference. We are breaking down the code to more understanding the code for everyone. The first line of code is defining an find pair close to 0 1 function which take an array for an input, and after that the input array is sorted through the sort function, and after the next line of code which initialize our two variables called left right to 0. And moving forward to the other lines of codes, we have also taken minimum sum pair, and in this line of code the two variable minimum sum and pair is initialized. The minimum sum is initialized to infinity to ensure that any valid sum of two array elements will be smaller than it. Pair is initialized to none because we don't know which pair of number will be considered closest to 0. We have also a while statement, which the while loop which continues as long as the index left is less than the index right. The next current sum equals to RA3 left plus RA3 right. This line of code calculate the sum of current pair of elements where array left and array 3 of right are the current elements that indices the left and right respectively. We have an if statement also inside the function. The if statement checks if the absolute value of current sum is lesser than current minimum sum. If yes, then minimum sum is updated to the absolute value of the current sum and the pair is set to the current pair of elements. We also have another if statement inside the loop, like which was we have mentioned in the slide also. The above if else statement update the indices of left and right depending on the sign of the current sum. If current sum is negative, then the left is incremented to move to the next element in the sorted array. Otherwise, the right is decremented to move to the previous element in the sorted array. In the last line, we have written the pair. In order to conclude, the optimized method is generally a better choice as it has a better time complexity for larger input size. However, for a smaller input size, the brute force approach method may be still may still be a reasonable approach. Thank you all for your time. Hope you have a good day.